We can't change the circumstances that we're dealt, right? Every child's family has a different experience, different set of challenges. But what I don't want parents to feel is this like this weight of like, I just don't know where to even begin. You're going to begin wherever your child is at, and we're going to build up slowly from there.
I have a special thank you just for you, our podcast listener. Right now, you can get free access to our most popular course and masterclass, How to Prepare, Support, and Respond to Your Child During Shots, Blood Draws, and Vaccines. You can also get access to how to use comfort positioning in pediatrics. These courses usually sell together for over $250, but we're giving it away to you for free. All you have to do is leave a written review for this podcast, Child Life on Call, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Give us a quick screenshot of your submitted review to podcast@childlifeoncall.com. Once we get your email, we'll send you the course completely for free. There are no strings attached, just our way of saying thank you for supporting the show and helping more parents find our podcast. Send us a screenshot of your review to podcast@childlifeoncall.com. That's podcast@childlifeoncall.com. Can't wait to get you free access to this course. Hello, my friends. I'm so happy to be with you today. Today, I get to introduce you to another main member of the care team in pediatrics, and that is the pediatric physical therapist. If you have seen a pediatric physical therapy session, then you know it often looks a lot like play. And of course, as a child life specialist, that is something I can totally get behind. A number of years ago, I was introduced to Dr. Allison Mell. She is a pediatric physical therapist and the owner and founder of Tots on Target. Her content, her voice, her personality, her expertise resonates with hundreds of thousands of parents every day on social media, and I couldn't be more energized to have her here. You're going to love her, not only because she's just an expert at what she does and she communicates physical therapy techniques and support and empowers parents, but she's hilarious, she's really fun, and I really enjoyed this episode, and I hope you do too. It would mean the world if you shared this podcast episode with another parent who has a child who has a medical need, whether it's an illness that they have right now, they have a rare disease. We know that it actually doesn't exactly matter the medical experience that they're going through, but parents have such common feelings and questions and desires to advocate, and putting this information out there in more parents' ears make them better members with the care team. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get started. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your family and what you do.
Thank you so much. Well, firstly, it is such a pleasure, again, because we've known each other for a while. We've been connected for so long now. And so it's really, we said before we started this call, like, why haven't we done this before? So I'm so glad that we're chatting together. And you're 100% right that we need to bring a little humor to all of our lives, because no matter where we're at, we need to lighten the load a little bit on ourselves, and just adding humor makes a big difference. So that being said, I am a mom of four myself. I have 4 kids, though they're getting bigger now. I have twins who are 14, a 12-year-old, and an 8.5-year-old, who I told she wasn't allowed to get any older than 6. She wasn't allowed to have another birthday, but time, it just happened, right? And she wanted to have another birthday, and it happened. And so they keep me very busy. And alongside with that, I wear the other hat of being pediatric physical therapist. And I've worked with all ages. I did a little bit of adults, but I really always found my heart was in pediatrics. I worked in sensory gyms, the school setting. More recently, I'm working with babies. And primarily, I now am educating parents through my social media platforms, Instagram, where I'm sharing content with parents that they know what to expect, that their babies and children should be doing and growing as they're developing through their motor development, because education is power, knowledge is power, and I want parents to have that awareness and have the language to be able to ask the important questions, or be the number one advocate for their child. That is the most important thing that we can do as parents.
I love that. And I don't know if you felt the same way that I do, but there's this level of course, when you're in a professional environment working in a healthcare office or a hospital or a clinic, There's this kind of like professional barrier and layer that comes between you and the families that you're serving, which is very important, very ethical, and professional boundaries are there for a reason. But when you're supporting someone online or talking to them and you're seeing them in their home environment, that layer almost doesn't go away entirely. Of course, there's still a professional relationship there, but you're able to offer a lot more of yourself, who you are, your personality, connect on a deeper level. And it's one of my favorite things about educating online about child life. And I can imagine it feels the same for you.
Yeah, I mean, we become part of their story in
Mm.
some small way, and I feel so appreciative that in social media has been able to expand that to so many more families worldwide. And I have gotten messages from parents like whether they purchased a course for me or didn't, they'll message me and say like, I saw something that you said and it helped me better advocate for my child. When I went to their doctor's appointment or I saw a PT locally to me, or I was talking to my mother-in-law about her concerns that my baby's not walking yet, right? Whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, when you feel like you can be a strong, pleasant advocate for your child, it really it makes you feel like you're doing what you can. And that's what we want.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tell me a little bit about your entry into pediatric physical therapy and what it was that really drew you to it.
I know. So it's funny to say this, but I actually started off wanting a job that I wouldn't have to sit down all the time, which is really a silly reason to go into a field. I was like, I don't want to sit all the time. I really always liked working with kids. I was always a babysitter and a camp counselor. And I worked all the time at summer camps. Every summer I was working at camp. And I discovered that I actually liked being the lifeguard, not the counselor. I liked seeing the kids and getting to see a lot of different varieties and ages and all that. And so when I was thinking about what I'd want to do to work with kids, I said, I don't think I want to be a teacher, right? With one class the whole school year. I really want to see lots of different kids and different ages. And so I was really drawn to the therapy world, and based off of just observations I chose physical therapy. And I really it's a field that I think has so much benefit to kids. And I really didn't know so much about pediatric physical therapy. Normally people think of physical therapy as like, I have back pain, I have a shoulder injury, I had a
Right.
car accident, and now I'm in therapy. And now when we think about kids, we're like, well, why do they need physical therapy? But there are so many children, whether they're, there is a diagnosis, there isn't a diagnosis, that they need help in their motor development, and it makes movement more fluid, more easy. It's not about injury, it's more about functional abilities.
Yeah. One of the things that I've always loved about watching pediatric physical therapists and occupational therapists is how you incorporate play into so much of your job. And but your job is so science backed, so evidence backed. There's a method to the madness, but you guys get to add this spark of play and incentive and fun that I can imagine would keep you coming back.
When I worked in the school system, I'd walk into a given classroom, and it was funny because when I had like a few kids in a classroom, but I only took one at a time, when four of them jumped up because they wanted it to be their turn, right? And
1,000%.
yeah, and actually there's one that's like sticking out my head. He wasn't verbal, and he was autistic in an ABA classroom, and he would jump up every time I walked into that classroom. And like again, it's been years since I worked in that school, and it's still with me because it really means so much. And even when I more recently I worked with a child who was a toe walker. She actually came to my house. She was in my neighborhood. And if she saw me around town, she would not even look in my direction. But when she came to my house for the session, she was like, she walked right in, took my hand, and it was like, and she couldn't wait to play with like certain games that I had taken out, because at the end of the day, this needs to be fun. We are there to be on the child's level, that we are relating to them. We come to their world, to their eye level, to their environment. And that doesn't mean their house. It means what do they want to play with? What characters are they into? How am I going to make this session fun? And we all can imagine going to a workout class where they're just like, pump weights 100 times. I'm just going to count for you in the background, right? And then you go to one where like they have Michael Jackson music playing and they're pumping it up, and the instructors, and you're engaged, and this, it's going by so quickly, and it's fun and it's exciting, and the energy in the room is alive. And so, I'm not going to that level in pediatric therapy sessions, but We are there to make it a fun experience because we want kids to want to come back. Now, sometimes that doesn't always happen, depending on what you're working on and all of that. Sometimes it could be a challenge, but that's our goal for sure.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a good visual. Like I think of when I would go to the body pump Les Mills classes, and man, I would hate doing all those lunges, but the music was good and it kept me coming back, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're pumped up and you're like, I am here for it, you know?
So, when you work with kids and families that have medical complexities or are often having to go to appointments, what are some of the best ways that you see families really work together? What I want to know is what are some of the features and attributes of the parents who bring their kids in and it's a really successful session? And it doesn't happen every single time, but you're seeing these consistent things. And the reason I ask is you and I both know when parents feel really empowered and engaged, their outcomes improve so much, not just for whatever challenge they're focusing on right there, but in their whole entire life because you're able to apply these skills all over the place. What does a really successful session look like for you in terms of family engagement?
Sure. I can go in so many directions with this question because I think that there are two different kind of avenues that we can really look at this from. One is, how do we make this specific session successful so that we're looking for, objectively success, right? That the child is improving. So one thing I do want to remind families, a lot of times when we're working with kids, you're not going to see immediate success, immediate change. Change with kids takes time. And you have to remember that sometimes it is 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? Sometimes a kid is going to have a great session where they're engaged in the activity, like I was just describing, right? It's a powerful session. They love the toy that you pulled out and they love the obstacle course that is set up for them or whatever it is, right? And they're engaged and they're there. There are other times where it's not going to be as successful of a session. That's okay. We're in it for the long game here. Okay. This is not about let's get in 5 sessions and be done. It's about the long game of let's see progress over time. And I think that for parents to take that weight off their shoulders, that every session has to be the most successful, because we have to remember when there are adult sessions, right? You go to the gym, an adult wants to, get over their pain, or they want to get stronger. They want their biceps to be bigger or their waist to be smaller, whatever the goal is for an adult going into a workout session or a physical therapy session. They have their own goals and they can overcome the challenges that they might have because they see the end goal. Kids don't have that. They don't have that long-term objective. We know what's good for them, but they don't really. They're there to play games. They're not there to climb stairs better or walk better or whatever their goals are. And so we have to remember that some sessions are going to be really successful. Some sessions are not going to be successful, and that's okay. And we also have to, especially when we have kids who are going through a lot, right? They have a lot of medical appointments. They're going to doctors that are maybe poking and asking them to do this. And, oh, it's just going to be a small prick here. They become a lot more cautious of the adults who are around them, right? And so that's why it's important to find a therapist who, again, it's not going to always be 100% of the time. Even those kids who loved me and loved playing with me had their bad days. That's okay, right? But you want somebody that is relating to your child, right? That makes it more fun, because this is a time where we're not poking with a needle, right? We're not, having to hold them down to get, blood work done or whatever it is. What we're there to do is play, right? And sometimes we have to push, but it should, with the environment set up in the right way, be more fun than not. And so, that's one thing, that make sure that you have the right person on your team, right? It's your team. You're not on the therapist isn't the leader. You are the team leader. Okay. You get to decide. And if you feel like your child, it's not going well one day, you can also give that feedback to the therapist, because as a therapist, I can't read your mind, right? There are parents who want you to push through, right? No, keep going. I want this session to be successful. But if you're like, no, my kid had a hard day. You don't even know what happened before we came to this session. My kid isn't feeling well. They had another doctor's appointment this morning that really didn't go well. It was very invasive. Then you can relay that over to the therapist and say, hey, it was a really tough day today. Do what you can, right? Maybe take it a little lighter today. Do things that are productive, but let's tone it down a notch, because your kid can't say those things. Your child
Oh, I
can't
love
say
that.
that.
That's such a great example of how to set up a session. Really, whether whoever you're working with, whatever provider you're
Correct.
seeing, is that like almost that sandwich. At the beginning, you give a 30-second recap. Hey, this is what we've been through today, and this is what's going on. And at the end, you can get some feedback from the provider on this is how
Yeah.
I think things went. But you really sandwich it with communication. And it
Yeah.
sounds like that's what you're talking about. And I
You need to
love,
give the
yeah,
context. Exactly.
yeah,
Like you need to give the context because as a therapist, we can't always read the mind. There are parents who like, no, like keep going, like I need you to push through because the child has cried at the last 3 sessions. And so sometimes we have to push past the initial anxiety, whatever it is, and work through the, growing pain, so to speak, and continue. But there are other times that you're like, no, my kid really can't. I need you to
yeah.
meet them at their level and we'll work slowly and steadily. Your communication, because you know your child best. And that is so key in working well with your providers.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you're giving permission for parents to have that conversation. It can feel uncomfortable because I know as me, I'm a people pleaser. And like, I want the therapist to feel like they're doing a really good job because they're working hard. But sometimes that makes me not want to communicate. Luckily, medical parents have learned how to advocate, are practicing it all the time. And so you giving permission to have those conversations is incredible. So thank you.
Right. I mean, now when I work a lot more with babies who clearly can't even tell their own parents what's going on with them that day, right? They can't even tell their parent, I'm cutting a tooth, mom, like give me a break, right? So they can't. But if I'm working with a baby who is crying during a session, I will often, either do things in short spurts and I'll always check in. Are you okay with me pushing past the crying or do you need, to pause? Do you
Yeah.
want a hugging break? Do you not want a hugging, break?
Yeah.
And, but that's something in all honesty, that I've developed more recently as a therapist.
Mm.
It's something that, as therapists, we're learning as we go too. And certainly, before I became a parent versus after I became a parent, what my eyes opened to, I had no idea what parents were going through, right? Until I became one. And so I think that you have to recognize as a parent that it's okay. And you could say it nicely. You could say it gently, right? Say, hey, you know what? Like, maybe let's take a break for a minute. I think that you're doing awesome. Like, this activity looks great. I think we need a break for a moment. Is that
Mhm.
okay? Or can we just take a snack break? Right? Like, communicate because at the end of the day, as therapists, we care about your family, but we're not your family. We
Yeah.
are going to take on the next patient. We're going to go about our business and we're going to move on, right?
Yeah.
You are your child's family. You are who they need to be in charge of them. Right. And
Yeah.
so if you feel like your child needs something, again, communication in a nice, calm way is, hey, we're partnering together,
Yeah.
and that's what makes things much more successful, much more than what obstacle course I'm doing with a child, what, thing. It's really about can we communicate with the parents? The parent needs to know that I care about that child. And so you, as a parent, you can also build that, or you can see how the therapist responds to you. And is this the right match for you? That's okay
Mhm.
too.
I love that. It's sometimes, and I'm in therapy now with my husband, and so what they talk a lot about is like these little ruptures, and you repair them. And sometimes a little rupture has to happen in order for you to repair and get stronger and move faster. And
Yeah.
sometimes these awkward conversations have to happen, and you're just feeling each other out. And then one of the amazing parts, as long as your insurance allows, you get to stick with the same
Yeah.
therapist. You get to come back and see them, and then Lindsay, who edits this podcast, has had some really great relationships with those who come to her house, and they know a lot about their family and vice versa. So it can be another added bonus of love and support to your child, to your family. And so that's the payoff when you go through these little awkward conversations and you repair it.
A
Um,
100%.
yeah.
It's a small comment here of like, oh, let's take a break for a moment. I think we'll do better after that, or something like that. Or you're also entitled to cut a session short if you feel like, if you as a parent don't feel like, as a therapist, I can't really say that, right? If
Mhm.
I'm, if I agree to a 45-minute session then I'm not going to say at 20 minutes or 30 minutes, hey, it looks like your child's done. I am going to push through, maybe with some breaks, maybe with some bubbles, maybe with something else, but I'm not going to be the one that says to the parent, I think we need to cut this short. But as the parent, you absolutely can do that.
I love that. And it's also the reverse is true. And as parents, we don't always know what is appropriate, what's not, how hard we should be pushing, how much time we've given. And so having that trust with that provider to be like, actually, mom, I think this might be happening right now. I could be wrong. Would you be okay if I tried XYZ? And the parent can get that feedback too.
Yeah.
Because it's not just always the parent is right no matter what. Sometimes the therapist is right too. And you
For
got to
sure.
come together and figure it out.
For sure. And I think that that's, we want to look at the professionals in our lives and know that they are good at what they do, right? They're bringing a lot to the table, and their level of expertise in their field is there to support you and your child. And you're there to know your child best and bring that to the table and just work together and make sure that, we're all headed in the right direction.
You have such a large following, which is incredible on social media. And I love watching you grow and thrive. And you just speak to parents in such, like I said, a hilarious, loving, matter of fact way. Like, I just want to talk to Dr. Mel and like have you tell me how things should be. And I just trust you inherently. What are parents asking you a lot of the time online and social media? And I'm going to even go to a subset group of parents because this is, we talk about medical complexities and illness and diagnosis and disease. What are you hearing and what questions do families like this have for a physical therapist like you?
Sure. I've worked, virtually with several families whose babies, started off in the NICU or have been on feeding tubes. I actually had a family recently who joined my online membership, and she had a lot of trouble eating. They couldn't really figure out why. She was on a feeding tube for a long while, and because she had so many medical appointments, she was so resistant to anyone touching her. Okay. She had a lot of sensitivity to anybody touching her hands, putting her in different positions. She was so resistant to it. And already at 16 months, she was like just rolling on the floor. She really wasn't doing much more than that. And so I find that parents feel like they're dealing with so much in the medical aspect that they're like, wait a second, I have to worry about all this other development stuff also. Like, I don't even know where to begin, because rightfully so, your brain is so focused on the surgery that they just had, right? I had another member also whose baby, I can't remember what the surgery was, but had like several surgeries early on in infancy, also had an NG tube. And like then at 9, 10 months old, maybe even closer to 12 months, like wasn't sitting, wasn't weight bearing, like all these things that kind of pile up, for lack of better terms, because other things, they were lying in certain positions. They weren't moving around the way other babies are doing, right? A child who has medical complexities isn't moving around and climbing and jumping on a trampoline potentially, right? And so they're not getting those same experiences as other same age children. And so I find that parents feel so overwhelmed of like, where do I even begin? What do I need to care about something else now? Like, I have all this here that I'm focused on, and now I have to like shift gears and think about, getting them on a trampoline. And not really, but like, you know what I mean? You want your child to be like all the other kids in their class, and that's what you're hoping for at the end of the day, is that you want to see your child on a trampoline. And so that's what I find that parents in these situations really feel, this anxiety of, are we so far behind? How are we ever going to catch up? Is my child missing out on all these experiences that I see all over the internet, right? All these play-based experiences that are so good for, their health and development and their brain, but my child didn't get to experience all of that. So now what, right? And I think that that's a very valid concern. But what I do answer to that is, we focus on, one thing at a time, so to speak, right? The medical necessity has to come first, obviously. And once that is dealt with, or in conjunction, if that, it works for your child, then we start slow and we're looking for small building blocks and we're looking for small successes and we're looking for small subtle changes or giving them different experiences that are going to help build up those building blocks, right? We can't change the circumstances that were dealt, right? Every child's family has a different experience, different set of challenges. But what I don't want parents to feel is this like like this weight of like, I just don't know where to even begin. You're going to begin wherever your child is at, and we're going to build up slowly from there. That's
Yeah.
really key.
Yeah, you're right. It's such a valid fear and probably is more fearful thinking about it and the anticipation of all there is to learn and grow versus when you actually begin.
Yeah.
And now you're able to actually take note and see all the tiny progress and milestones and inch stones, sometimes, as they
Yeah.
say in the NICU world, because the medical complexity or whatever was happening is stable.
Yeah.
And that's great. We love stable medical so that you can focus on these other things like development. And what you bring to families is that like it doesn't have to be all work. It can be play too.
Yeah. Yeah. And make it so that this isn't anxiety driven. We're looking at function. We're looking at how your child can engage with peers in a meaningful way, whatever that is. I'm very big on we meet the child where they're at and we build slowly and steadily from there. And
Yeah.
so whatever stage your child is starting at, whatever milestone they're approaching or they just passed, we're going to meet them where they're at. We're going to build slowly and steadily. That's the only way we can. We can't jump ahead for, pun intended, that we're not going to, jump so far ahead where we're looking at, running down the sand. We're going to start slow. We're going to build up. We need to give those muscles a chance to strengthen, give those experiences when we can. And we are looking for very small changes. That's really, really key. Is not, as I said before about, this is the long game that we're in for, which I know can feel very, like that's so tiring. That's so like, I don't want to wait
No,
years to see changes. But what I mean is look for the small changes that you're going to see along the way, because that is going to eventually, you're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, wow, we came so far. But if you're looking for the big change, like within a month or 2 months, that's, less likely to happen. But if we're looking for the small changes, you're going to feel much more successful in the process.
absolutely. I have a couple more questions for you. One is about how much physical therapy needs to happen outside of the time with the physical therapist. And we know to build on skills, and this is not just for physical therapy and kids, but like with anything, if I'm practicing mindfulness, if I'm practicing exercise, if I'm practicing having better posture, the more you do it, the more you succeed.
Of
Is
course.
there a good rule of thumb that you give to families that's not overwhelming, but maybe institute some practices that you're teaching? How much physical therapy outside of physical therapy do
Sure.
families need to be doing?
Right. So that's going to really depend on how much they're getting to begin with. And if you're in the US, all states offer early intervention, or a child can get services through school if they're in school. And often that is, once a week, twice a week, which is a good amount, but it's not enough it will move the needle. It will move
Sure.
the needle. But I compare it to going to the gym. We're going to take our Michael Jackson example, right? Of going to the
Yeah.
gym. You don't have to like Michael Jackson music to listen to the example. That's okay. But if you go to the gym for 1 45-minute, run on the treadmill once a week, you're not going to really see a difference than if run around the block for 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes every day. You're going to see more of a difference, right?
Got it.
And so if I'm working with families, I usually say 5 to 10 minutes twice a day of like
Got it.
some sort of activity. Now, that has to be manageable though for the family. Not
Right.
always is that so attainable depending on what else is going on. Like, I will give you an example to make you feel better. If you're like, I can't even do that, right? Years ago, one of my kids, I even forget which one it is, because that's what happens when you have like,
You have
I
a
don't know,
gaggle.
I have no idea which kid we're even talking about. But one of the kids was struggling with reading in like second or third grade, first grade, I don't remember. And the teacher recommended, like, why don't you print out jokes that the child will read at the dinner table, right? Now, that's actually a really attainable suggestion. I never did it. Not
Yeah.
once. Okay. It didn't happen because even though that is a very, very feasible suggestion, right? Like print off a
Yeah.
few jokes, right? Even cut them into snips. So each day, like put a joke on the table and they have to read the joke. And it's encouraging reading on a daily basis. And you're talking about 1 to 2 sentences. Like that's
Right.
attainable, right? Where it's not like sit and read a chapter book. But I never did it. Okay. Because I was busy and I was making dinner and I was doing whatever it was and I never found the time to do it. So what if you want to see more of those results, right?
Mhm.
Then if you're working with a physical therapist, ask for very simple activities that you can do at home and ask exactly how you should set up this activity at home, right?
Yeah.
And if you can do it, great. And I'm saying 5 to 10 minutes twice a day, if you do it an extra 2 times a week, you're
Mm.
going to see a difference more than just the once a week, right? If you're adding in 2 additional 10-minute sessions a week, that's more than the once a week. So I like to say, do it that you feel capable to do, right? The more you do, the more you're going to see. I often find though, and I'll change this with babies. If you have a baby coming out of the NICU, I do think that often we can do subtle things more often because we have diaper changes that you can
Uh,
always, right? So at
I
every
was just
diaper
about to
change,
say, my son had torticollis,
yes,
and the advice we got was at diaper changes, we do the head and neck stretches, and it worked
exactly.
because I was already there.
You're already there, right? So it's part of your routine that you already have them in a certain position and you can do those stretches and you're like, okay, now, and you get 5 to 6 of those times a day, at minimum. If we have a baby or like, again, sometimes with babies, we're more scheduled with babies because there's nap times, there's wake windows, there's feeding times, we're bath time. Like it's much more of a structure of the day that I think
Sure.
allows parents to be able to implement those things. And I think we could see quicker progress with our babies when we're doing it because they can't tolerate 40 minutes. Like, and they're not doing an obstacle course, right? It's simple things that we're incorporating. And so
Yeah.
if you could do those, 2 to 3 times a day in the morning, before bath time, before bedtime, you have a structure of the day. When you have older kids, I just find that, like, again, if your child's in school, if they're coming home, they want a snack, they're tired, they wanted to watch TV, they wanted to go out, it's very hard to like follow the same routine every day like we do with babies.
Mm, makes so much sense. What is your favorite part of being a physical therapist?
Oh, what's my favorite part of being a physical therapist? I think now that I'm like 15 plus years, probably more now into my career, it really is interesting to say this, but I learn new techniques every day. Like I'll think like, gosh, like I have all these stretches that I do. Like I've really, and then I'll be like, you know what, this baby, none of that worked with. I just tried something else and that worked. And
Oh,
and I'm constantly learning from the babies and the children that I work with. And it makes me more compassionate, more understanding, better with my handling skills. When I'll tell a parent, like, no, try this stretch, and they're like, but it's not working. And I'm like, no, like, try it. You could do it. I've done this stretch. Like, you could do it. No, it's not working. And then I'll work with the baby and be like, oh, that stretch did not work with this baby at all. Right. And so
mhm.
I'm constantly learning, and not because the science has changed or the muscles have changed, but different things work with different bodies, different children, different personalities. And so I am constantly learning from my patients, and I'm also learning a lot from the community at large, from parents. I think what parents are dealing with has changed over time. Also, like what there's a lot more information out there. I mean, we're part of that, right? We are
Yeah.
the information givers
Yeah.
on our social media platforms. But when I had my children, I if Instagram existed, it was not, I mean, I don't even know what was on it. Like there was nothing on it. It was probably like some pictures of flowers or
Yeah.
something. Like there was nothing on it. And so there was really no way to get so much information on our own. I mean, you could Google things, but you have to know what to Google, right? You have to
Right.
know what you're looking for. And I think that social media has provided parents with, you didn't know what to ask, but I'm giving you the language. I'm giving you something to ask about. I'm giving you something to look more into, or I'll give you those tips, whatever it is. But I think that I've enjoyed this field in that it's given me this opportunity to educate parents that when I went to school, I never even imagined this. I mean, Facebook existed, but nothing to what I don't even think there was a news feed when I went
Yeah.
into grad school. It's probably why I was able to study so many hours and not waste my time looking or scrolling.
So true.
Right. But I think that now the field has given me the opportunity to educate parents. And yes, in milestones and motor development, but also in that parent advocacy that I care so much about and have really channeled my platform to be able to empower parents with.
Oh, I think so. I'm right there with you. It's so much fun. So much
Yeah.
fun. Because when you get that message from a parent that says, I advocated for this, I asked for this because I saw something that you posted, it's like, that's it. That's why we're here.
Yes. I remember, I don't know if I told you this story. Maybe like 2 years ago, my youngest had her adenoids out and we were in the hospital. And again, it was a quick surgery. There was nothing, but a child life specialist came
Uh-huh.
and I think they wanted to give her something to drink before getting the gas mask. I don't
Uh-huh.
remember, right? You would probably know
Yeah.
better than me what that they were giving her. And she did not want to drink whatever it was. It didn't taste good or she didn't know what it tasted like. And she did not want
Right.
to do it. And she didn't want to lie down with the mask. And the child life specialists were there. And again, I am somebody who's in the medical field. And as you said, you don't always know like what you can say, what you can't say. Is there a reason that they want this child in a certain position? Like, I
Sure.
don't know what's optional. I don't know. And the child life specialist was there. And Nikki, who again, if now she's 8, she was 6, 5 or 6 at the time, she was able to speak and she's like crying, like, I don't want to lie down. And the child life specialist was like, do you want to stand up? And she was like, yes. And she's like, okay. And like, it changed that, instead of being sleeping before they wheeled her into the OR, she walked into the OR and just sat on the table and she was ready to go. And I was like, this changed my experience where I wouldn't have necessarily been somebody to say, well, why can't she just walk into the OR? I would have thought, well, maybe
A
this is what they
1000%.
always do with 5 or 6 year olds. Like maybe there's a reason that they
Yeah.
do it this way. And I don't know what that reason is, but having somebody there to say, no, I know the process. I know exactly what's this
What
or
we can
that.
ask
And
for.
exactly. And it
Yeah.
made a big difference to her, like not having to hold her down because she just didn't want to drink the thing. And it was probably disgusting.
Yeah, you know what? She's exactly right. And that's what's so hard because so many of these this has to be done this way comes out of fear and ease of the staff. And
Yes.
while I respect that so much because your job is important and I want you to do your job the best way you can, these are kids.
Yeah.
And so if her autonomy feels taken away by having to sit down and the simple reason is stand up, I'm so glad there was someone there to help advocate and ask for that because otherwise you just don't know.
Yes, you don't know because again, are they nervous that she's going to fall down, after she takes this like
Absolutely.
and needs
Yeah.
to be sitting down? Like you don't know, and that's why even asking the questions like, does she have to drink this medicine? Does she have to sit down? But again, you have to sometimes go through these experiences to
You
know
do.
that you can ask those questions. There's an intrinsic nature to all of us that wants to please or make it simple or tell our child to like, come on, just stop giving a hard time, like just sit
Yeah.
down.
Just, yeah.
Right. And it's like intrinsic in us to like tell our kids to like just behave or like stop making their job harder. And like
Yeah.
it's not our kids' job to make their job easier.
No,
Yes,
it's
we'd
not.
like that, but it's really not their job. And again, as somebody who works with children who isn't, I forgot that. I forgot that in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's those experiences that change us.
Because you were mom in that
Yes.
moment.
Yes. I was mom. I was
Yeah.
not in the therapy world at all in that moment. And I was like, like, Nikki, just sit down. Like, it's okay. Like, you'll be fine. And I'm asking the should I hold her? Like, should I hold her down? And then the child life specialist was like, no, like, it's fine. Like, we'll just work with this. And I'm like, oh, okay, great, great. Yeah, sure.
I love that. It's truly like trusting to kids that they're gonna tell us what they need in that moment and believing them when they say it.
Yeah.
So I've also seen this in like needing to take breaks for procedures and the idea from staff could be like, no, they just won't do it. I'm like, they might just need a break. They're
Right.
saying they need a break. Let's try it rather
Right.
than just pushing
Right.
through.
And
But
if the
oh,
break doesn't work, so it doesn't work. But if it does work, then
yeah.
we gave them that opportunity.
Exactly. Well, I adore you. Where can people follow along and join your membership and do all the things with Dr. Allison Mell?
Thank you so much. So I'm on all social media channels at Tots on Target, and you can learn all about everything that we do at totsontarget.com. I have several free resources on there, and I also have an online membership. It is a monthly or annual membership that is there to support parents with materials to help their babies reach developmental milestones. So I have courses for baby massage, rolling, crawling, and walking. And I also run live Q&A calls. So I'm there to answer questions directly. There's ongoing support. And plus, there are several activities and resources for older children as well. And so that can all be looked into more at totsontarget.com.
I love that. You're amazing. And we've been around a while when the person who built our website is no longer
Right? Oh my
in
gosh,
business.
so crazy. But it really is crazy. We've been doing this for a long time.
We're in the long game.
Absolutely. I love
Thank
it.
you
It's
so
such a
much,
pleasure
Allison.
chatting with
So
you.
good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
As a parent, you want to be there for your child, especially when it comes to their health. But healthcare can be overwhelming and confusing. The good news is child life specialists are experts who help families navigate these challenges. But often our support is only in hospitals. So imagine if you had access to these valuable tools and resources all the time. You would be able to understand medical procedures, explain them to your child, and help them feel less anxious, which also makes you probably feel less anxious. So when your child visits the doctor, has surgery, or has a medical procedure, having the right information and support can make all the difference. You, the parent, can be prepared to answer their questions, calm their fears, and advocate for their needs. Child Life Specialist tools are ready to be in your hands right now through our app SupportSpot. All you have to do is go to the iOS or Android store, type in SupportSpot. We are giving all of our listeners on this podcast access to the app for just $19.99 for an entire year. You are going to have, I'm not kidding, 7 years worth of resources and support and information that we have been building at Child Life on Call at your fingertips. With these tools in your pocket, you can transform the way your family experiences medical care. Parents, you deserve to be informed and feel confident in your child's healthcare journey. And by having access to SupportSpot, you can ensure that your child feels supported and understood no matter what medical challenges come your way. Head to the link in the show notes or go to your app store, type in SupportSpot to download it today. For those of you who are joining us today, I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I am a child life specialist. And the suggestions and tips and resources that I talk about with parents on this podcast may be great for you and they may not be right for you. So the most important person you can talk to about getting support is your care team, your doctor who knows your story and your child's story. So regardless of maybe what I mention or what other families mention here, we're not licensed therapists, we're not doctors. We're having a conversation about what the parenting journey has been like. So please keep that in mind as you listen today.